Did you know that what you eat every day could be directly contributing to feeding cancer cells? It sounds absurd, but it's the plain truth. What's worse is that many of the foods we consider normal or even healthy could be doing just that. And we're not talking about something distant or rare. It's something present in your breakfast, that quick snack, or even in dessert after dinner. Do you feel secure with your food choices? Maybe it's time to reevaluate. Many people believe that eating well simply means avoiding fast food or fried foods. But the reality is much more complex. Science has already shown that certain foods can literally create the perfect environment for cancer to thrive. And worse, these foods are disguised in our daily lives, deceiving even the most vigilant. But here's the good news. Just as you may be unknowingly feeding cancer, you can also stop it immediately. It all depends on the choices you make from now on. Imagine the feeling of knowing you're in control, that each meal can be a step toward a healthier life, free from silent risks. It's not just about stopping the consumption of certain foods. It's about discovering that small changes can have a huge impact on your health and well-being. So, if you're ready to make these changes and want to find out what is really feeding cancer in your body, keep watching. The information to follow could completely change the way you view your diet. There are foods that, no matter how harmless they seem, can literally feed cancer cells. It's scary to think that, in our daily lives, we might be contributing to the growth of something so dangerous. When it comes to cancer, it's essential to care about what we put on our plates. But the truth is that many people don't know that certain foods, seemingly healthy, can be helping cancer cells multiply. It's not about eating poorly once in a while. It's about maintaining a diet that weakens these cells instead of empowering them. You know those highly processed foods? Well, they're among the main culprits. The food industry often disguises danger behind irresistible flavors and eye-catching packaging. Regular consumption of sugary foods, for example, has been linked to increased inflammation in the body. And guess what? Cancer cells love an inflamed environment to multiply. A practical way to start avoiding this is to cut down on sodas, store-bought cakes, and filled cookies. These are small steps that, over time, can make a big difference. Of course, not all cancer-feeding foods are easy to identify. Sometimes, they are disguised as light or fit options. A clear example is those artificial sweeteners that many people use, believing they are a healthier choice. While they may help reduce calories, studies suggest they can alter metabolism and create favorable conditions for cancer. Replacing these products with natural alternatives, like honey or coconut sugar, can be a good start to reducing this silent risk. But it's not just about avoiding cancer-feeding foods. The secret lies in nourishing the body with foods that help strengthen the immune system, making it harder for these malignant cells to survive. After all, balance is key to everything. While eliminating harmful foods is essential, it's equally important to add options that are true natural shields, like berries and cruciferous vegetables. These are known for their anti-cancer properties and can be easily included in any meal. One of the big problems with foods that feed cancer cells is that they often become part of our daily lives without us realizing it. Think about that moment when we're in a hurry and end up opting for fast food. It may seem harmless after all. It's just once in a while. But the truth is, when we accumulate these choices over time, our bodies start to suffer the consequences. Ultra-processed foods, rich in preservatives and artificial colors, create the perfect environment for cancer cells to flourish. However, few people realize the real impact of this continuous exposure. Many foods that feed cancer are also strongly linked to increased insulin levels. Think about how refined sugar and simple carbohydrates act in the body. They are quickly absorbed, raising blood glucose. This, in turn, forces the pancreas to release large amounts of insulin. And here's the problem. Elevated insulin levels create an environment that favors the growth of cancer cells. Avoiding insulin spikes can be an effective way to prevent cancer progression. Fiber-rich foods, like oatmeal and quinoa, are great options to keep these levels in check. Another important point is the impact of saturated and trans fats found in many processed foods. These types of fats not only affect the cardiovascular system but may also be associated with tumor growth. They increase inflammation in the body, and as we know, chronic inflammation is fertile ground for cancer cells. A practical alternative is to opt for healthy fat sources, such as extra virgin olive oil and avocado, which nourish the body and help combat inflammation. Swapping that quick fried snack for a handful of nuts can be a simple yet powerful choice. Still, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that these foods aren't that harmful because we consume them in small amounts. But the fact is, frequent consumption of small portions of cancer-feeding foods can have cumulative effects. That's why it's worth reviewing our eating habits and making adjustments that may seem small but will have a significant impact on long-term health. Small changes, like swapping sodas for natural juices and fried foods for baked ones, are already a good start. This puts the power of decision in our hands, and every choice counts. When it comes to foods that feed cancer cells, many are surprised to discover that products often seen as neutral can have a devastating effect on the body. A classic example is the excessive consumption of processed meats, such as sausages, bacon, and ham. These foods contain chemical compounds, like nitrates and nitrites, which can turn into carcinogenic substances when metabolized. The problem is that these meats are part of many people's routines, being common in quick snacks and practical meals. But is convenience worth the risk? The reality is that, while convenient, these foods have a direct link to increased cancer risk, especially colorectal cancer. Replacing these processed items with more natural options, like grilled chicken or fish, can be a safer and more nutritious choice. In fact, a famous study by the World Health Organization classified processed meats as carcinogenic to humans, which left many people concerned. If we stop to think, small adjustments in the diet can have an immense impact on our long-term health. Another important point is how excessive consumption of red meat can also be a risk factor. It's not that red meat itself is the villain, but the excess of it, especially when grilled or fried at high temperatures, can produce compounds called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are known to cause cancer. If you're going to consume red meat, it's best to balance it and seek healthier cooking methods, like baking or slow cooking. Simply marinating the meat before grilling, for example, can significantly reduce the formation of these substances. The key here is to understand that it's not about living in paranoia and cutting out all these foods at once. It's about balancing and making conscious choices. In practice, this means being mindful of what you consume daily, seeking healthy and accessible alternatives. Nowadays, there are so many options for fresh and whole foods that there's no excuse not to start replacing processed ones. Ideally, always look for fresh ingredients and homemade recipes to ensure we are nourishing our bodies correctly, rather than unknowingly feeding cancer cells. One point many people overlook when talking about foods that feed cancer cells is the presence of pesticides and agrochemicals in fruits and vegetables. This may sound surprising. After all, we think of these foods as healthy and essential for well-being. But the problem lies in how they are grown. Continuous exposure to these chemicals can have a cumulative effect on the body, promoting inflammation and creating the ideal environment for cancer cell growth. Therefore, whenever possible, opting for organic foods is a wise choice. However, transitioning to an organic diet may seem challenging for many people. A practical example would be to start with fruits and vegetables that tend to accumulate the most pesticides, like strawberries, apples, and spinach, replacing them with organic versions. Another tip is to prioritize seasonal foods, which are often less treated with chemicals. Small actions like these help reduce the intake of harmful substances without requiring drastic changes all at once. It's all about balance and knowing where the real danger lies. But the danger isn't just in fresh foods. Ultra-processed products can also contain pesticide residues and preservatives. Many cancer-feeding foods are loaded with chemical additives that accumulate in the body over time. A clear example of this is industrialized breakfast cereals, which often undergo processes involving the use of pesticides. Replacing these products with more natural options, like oatmeal with fresh fruit, is a simple way to avoid this type of exposure. Besides being healthier, this choice also provides more energy and vitality. Another detail worth mentioning is the role of the water we drink. Often, it may also contain pesticide residues, especially in rural areas or where pesticide use is intensive. Investing in quality water filters or opting for mineral water can be an additional measure to avoid ingesting chemicals that, in the long run, may contribute to the development of cancer cells. The secret lies in making informed choices, taking care of what enters our bodies at all levels, from our diet to what we drink. Now that you know how certain foods may be feeding cancer cells, the question remains, what are you going to do about it? Are you ready to change your diet and avoid these silent risks? The power to transform your health is in your hands. Small daily decisions, like swapping a processed food for a natural option, can make all the difference. Think about it. Is it worth continuing to consume something that could be sabotaging your health in the long run? If the answer is no, the next step is to take action. Start by observing what's on your plate and making more conscious choices. And remember, this journey doesn't have to be lonely. Here on the channel, you'll find more tips and guidance to improve your diet and take care of your body the way it deserves. The change begins now, and your health will thank you for it in the future. So, how about starting this transformation today? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. With each new piece of content, you'll learn more about how to protect your health and avoid these hidden enemies. Let's embark on this journey of knowledge and change together.